You know LinkedIn is an amazing tool to build your business. You just don't know where to start. In this video, we're going to go through how to connect, nurture, and engage successfully on LinkedIn. So stay tuned for that. Not too long ago, I created a video on transitioning traditional networking to online networking using LinkedIn. Click up here to see that video. Many asked me for real-world examples. Today, we're going to create a real example on how you connect, nurture, and engage on LinkedIn. It all starts with the connection request. The first thing we must do is segment the target connections. We need to decide who we're targeting. We need to come up with a list of contacts, a list of people on LinkedIn that we want to connect with. Now that's usually tied to their job title, the type of business they're in, and maybe some sort of affinity network. Well, what do I mean by affinity network? I mean the college they went to, a place they worked in the past, something like that. The first thing we're going to do is put together a list of contacts that we want to target. And we're going to do a narrow search to find a group of people that have something in common, but that also have something that we can discuss with them easily. I'm going to start in the search, and just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to type the word owner and hit enter. The next thing I'm going to do is click people. And now on the right side, I'm going to click all filters. This is now how we do our searching. When we're looking for contacts, we want to find contacts that have at least some connection to us through a second or third layer. So I'm going to choose second and third. I don't want to look for everybody out there. I want to have some connection in common. And when you go to the third layer, that's practically everyone anyway. So it really makes it easy. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for people that are in my metro area. I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I'm going to choose the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I'll skip specific company, but you might want to look at past company. Maybe we've worked at the same place before. That's something to consider. For this example, I'm going to choose somebody that went to the University of Texas. This allows us to have a common thread that we can speak to, and it opens things up in a more casual tone. And maybe I'm looking for people that are in IT. So I'm going to find all the people that are in IT that went to the University of Texas, that profile language is in English. Now I have to narrow down title. I'm going to look for somebody that's like the leader of the company. So I'm going to choose president here, because that's the target I'm interested in. And click show results, and let's just see how big of our sample is. So now I have 17. So these are 17 people I want to target. You should understand, of course, we can go much larger than this, but to be successful in your efforts of getting connections, it's best to be very, very specific. You can do this multiple times for different affinity groups, different universities, different past employers, different industries. And here I'm just targeting the people in Dallas-Fort Worth that went to the University of Texas that are in IT. So now what do we do? I want to connect with one of these people. So I'm just going to choose somebody that's in my network, probably one that's the second. Now, ultimately, not in this video, I will probably go through and do all of these, but I'm going to pick one. This is where we get to the connect stage of our connect, nurture, and engage effort. I want to connect. And I'm always going to want to add a personal note. Okay, so let's think about what we're doing here. The note we're going to create, the connection note, it has to be something that gets them interested and wants to take action. So I'm going to create a note that is speaking to a fellow Longhorn that is in IT. All right, so I put together a simple note, and the whole point is to emphasize what we have in common at the beginning. In this case, it's a common school, and since they are in a specific niche, I'm pointing that out, that there might be opportunity for my clients to benefit from their services. How come I'm connecting with Longhorns in IT in DFW and your name came up? My clients are often looking for IT solutions, so I figure it would be good to get to know each other. And that's it. My goal here is to establish a connection. That's it. I just want to establish a connection. If the person connects with me, I'll move on to the nurture sequence. And so I'm going to send this out to each one of these people. So I'll literally just copy this. I'm going to send this to each one that showed up in this list. Now, whether the list is 5, 15, 50, it doesn't matter. You should just spend the time to work on connections with certain affinity groups. The next one I might do, for example, is a past employer. I worked at Arthur Andersen for a number of years, and while that organization no longer exists in the form it once did, there are many people that work there and they were proud to work there. And so I will likely do another affinity group based on people that worked at Andersen. I will also narrow down my groups by geography. And so while I am in DFW and I'm targeting people in DFW right now, I might choose other networks and other locations. I might target people in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. But right now I start in the backyard and then I can expand to other geographies after that. So I'm going to send this. Now there's some things not to do when doing the connection request. First off, do not send a book. I received some connection requests that are multiple paragraphs, and I don't really know what those people are thinking. I'm not sure if they think I would read them or not, but it is clearly a solicitation. It's certainly way too long for me to read, and of course I ignore all of those. So don't write a book when you're doing a request. The second thing is don't use the default. If you're doing a connection request, you don't want to just send out a generic request without any sort of commentary. That comes off as either being automated or really just not caring about the connection. Don't do that unless you're really close with the person, but even then you'd send a note. So do not use the generic default connection request that comes with LinkedIn. And finally, don't send a connection request where you're selling in it. I get a lot of these requests where the person is literally openly saying, I think I can do a lot for your business, or my company does this, this, this. Those I call the me connection requests. They're talking about themselves, and they're talking about what it is they want. And of course, I ignore those. When you're doing a connection request, it should be sincere, and it should have some sort of affinity group and some way for that person receiving it to know that it's worth connecting with you. Avoid the book, never use the default, and please, no selling in the connection request. Now let's move on to nurture. So now the next step is to create a campaign. I'm going to call it a campaign where you're sending messages on a regular basis over time to get in front of that person. Now ultimately, the nurture has a simple goal. It's to get engagement. And engagement is setting an appointment. That could be a phone call, that could be a meeting somewhere if you're in, say, geography, but that's where you want to get them. So the whole idea of the process is to put together a series of messages that you're going to send that share something of value that benefits that recipient so that you're building your own authority in their eyes, and then end it with a call to action to get something scheduled. And we're doing all of this in LinkedIn. In my prior video on the topic, I also talked about it in doing this through email, moving off of LinkedIn into the email. And I have also some great videos on writing email autoresponders, which you can see a link to above. But for now, we're just going to do all of this in LinkedIn. So I'm going to show you an example of a series. The message that you send out after the connection, once it's accepted, it's intended to strengthen the relationship initially. Now, the easiest way to strengthen a relationship is to ask for a favor or to ask a question. In this example here, we're just thanking them from connecting and saying a little bit about us. This is a generic example here. It's not really ours. But what we're asking is a simple question. What sort of strategy changes has this year pushed you into? The whole idea is to tee up a conversation. The other approach you could take is, I have a favor to ask. I really could use your advice on this situation. You are an expert in IT. What are your thoughts on the security updates that Google did recently? Or something that's topical or current. The point is to ask a question at the end of that message so that the person feels that they are helping you, and it doesn't really cost them anything. Now you have to be, again, sincere about it. You have to ask them a question that you believe they would have an opinion on or could answer. And this is all tied to being really thoughtful in how you're targeting the group that's getting these campaigns. And then by them responding, you're getting an answer, hopefully, that will spur a conversation between the two of you. Because once the conversation occurs, then there is no more automated series. There is no more automated nurture. It's just dialogue. It's like sending emails back and forth. You are sending messages back and forth in LinkedIn. And then once that happens, at one point say, hey, let's jump on a call. I'd like to talk about this more. You can call me on my cell. Here's the number, or here's a link, and we can book a call together. And that's how you get that engagement. You first connect, and then you nurture. That first nurture is sending something of value, asking a question, asking a favor, any one of those three, and then going back and forth, having a conversation, short bursts back and forth, and let's jump on a call. Now, if you're in the same geography, it's let's have a coffee, let's get together. Now, what happens if the conversation ends? What happens if abruptly the person stops responding to you? That's when you fall back into a new nurture. In this case, it might be a content nurture. And the way you do that is by sharing something of interest or of value. So for example, on my LinkedIn, I publish videos every week. I publish other things. But what I might do is if I have a video that I created recently that I believe is appropriate or relevant to the contacts that I've started in this campaign, I'll send a quick message in LinkedIn out to them that has a link to that video. So for example, going through the ones that I have, I might choose I'm going to send out the digital marketing elements. Hey, by the way, this is something that I feel really strongly about. It's something we do, and I think that you might find it useful too. Take a look at it if you have a chance. It's a video I created, and you just include a link in it. And then you do that periodically. You do that consistently, and then what you do after that is you go back to the nurture where you ask a question. Hey, by the way, I just saw that this was happening in your industry. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. The way the nurture works there is we're trying to re-establish engagement. So if they are engaged, but then they stop responding, we send content to them. And then after we've sent a couple pieces of content, we then re-engage with a new question. And that's it. That's how you connect, nurture, and engage on LinkedIn. I make videos like this all the time. Sometimes they're on marketing, other times they're on business, and other times they're on personal productivity and motivation. If you like what you saw, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe and hit the bell. And if there's something else that you didn't see here, or maybe you have a different view on, I'd love to know more. Put that in the comments below. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.